You think you knew Pokémon? Nah, fam. That cute little Pikachu and his trainer Ash weren't just entertaining kids on Saturday mornings. They were straight up dismantling an entire industry. While you were collecting cards and trading with friends, this Japanese phenomenon was quietly destroying decades of American cartoon tradition. I'm about to drop some knowledge that'll blow your mind about how one anime series almost killed Saturday morning cartoons forever. We're talking network panic, cover-ups, and industry manipulation that goes way deeper than you ever imagined. The final revelation? It'll make you question everything about your childhood. The merchandise Trojan horse. Here's where it gets twisted, fam. Before Pokémon showed up, Saturday morning cartoons had this beautiful symbiotic relationship with toy companies. Shows like Transformers and G.I. Joe, yeah, they were based on toys, but they still told actual stories. The toys were just a bonus, but Pokémon, they flipped the entire script and turned children's entertainment into a straight-up addiction machine. Think about it. Traditional cartoons had maybe 10 to 15 toy characters max. Pokémon launched with 150 creatures, and every single one was designed to be collected. We're talking about a psychological manipulation so brilliant it makes casino marketing look amateur. They didn't just want kids to buy a toy. They wanted kids to buy all the toys and then buy them again when new generations dropped. The numbers don't lie. In 1998, Pokémon merchandise generated over $6 billion globally. Meanwhile, classic Saturday morning shows like Gargoyles, Batman the Animated Series, and X-Men got their toy lines completely demolished. Toy store shelves that used to showcase diverse action figures suddenly became Pokémon monopolies. Store managers started telling other toy companies there wasn't enough shelf space because Pokémon demanded entire aisles. But here's the kicker. Pokémon cards weren't even sold in toy stores initially. They created their own distribution network through comic shops and convenience stores, literally bypassing the traditional toy industry and creating a parallel economy. Kids started spending lunch money on card packs instead of action figures. The psychological hook was so strong that parents reported children having withdrawal symptoms when they couldn't get new cards, but that's nothing compared to how they manipulated actual broadcast schedules to kill off the competition completely. The time slot assassination. But here's where it gets darker. They didn't just steal shelf space, they systematically murdered the entire concept of Saturday morning cartoons. And I'm not talking metaphorically here, fam. I'm talking about a calculated destruction of a 30-year American tradition that happened so fast, most people didn't even notice until it was over. See, Saturday morning cartoons worked on a beautiful weekly rhythm. Kids would wake up early, grab their cereal, and watch their favorite shows for a few precious hours before the day started. It was appointment television. You had to be there at 8 a.m. sharp, or you'd miss your show for an entire week. This created genuine excitement and anticipation. But Pokémon said, nah, we're not playing by those rules. They launched with daily episodes, Monday through Friday, in after-school time slots. Suddenly, kids didn't need to wait for Saturday anymore. Why would you wake up early on the weekend to watch reruns of Batman when you could catch fresh Pokémon content every single day after school? The weekly appointment became irrelevant overnight, but here's the truly diabolical part. Once Pokémon proved daily programming worked, networks started moving all their content to weekday slots. Saturday morning ratings plummeted because the good shows weren't even airing on Saturday anymore. By 2000, Saturday morning had become a graveyard of educational programming and cheap reruns. Networks used this as justification to cancel Saturday morning cartoon blocks entirely. The Kids WB Saturday morning block? Dead by 2008. Fox Kids Saturday lineup? Completely gutted. ABC's One Saturday Morning? Replaced with educational content nobody watched. Pokémon didn't just compete with Saturday morning cartoons, they made the entire time slot financially unviable. They proved you could make more money with daily programming and toy sales than with the traditional Saturday morning model, but that's nothing compared to what they did to the voice actors who built the entire industry. The voice actor betrayal. Now wrap your head around this betrayal because it gets absolutely ruthless. The voice acting industry had spent decades building up legendary performers who could bring cartoon characters to life with nothing but their voices. We're talking about artists like Mel Blanc, Frank Welker, and Maurice LaMarche. People who could voice dozens of distinct characters and make each one feel completely real. But Pokémon walked in and said, "We don't need talent, we just need cheap." Here's the thing that'll blow your mind. Most of the original Pokémon English dub was recorded by unknown actors working for bottom dollar rates. Veronica Taylor, who voiced Ash, was making a fraction of what established cartoon voice actors earned. The entire main cast was hired specifically because they were affordable, not because they were the best talent available. This wasn't an accident. It was a deliberate strategy to prove that voice acting didn't matter as much as marketing. But here's where it gets truly twisted. Once Pokémon became successful with cheaper voice talent, other animation studios started questioning why they were paying premium rates for experienced voice actors. Shows that had budgets for seasoned professionals suddenly started hiring cheaper alternatives. Voice actors who had worked for decades building their craft found themselves being replaced by actors willing to work for half the salary. The ripple effect was devastating. Legendary voice actors like Charlie Adler and Rob Paulsen saw their workload dramatically decrease. Studios started viewing voice acting as a commodity instead of an art form. The craft that had been built up over decades of Saturday morning cartoons got reduced to whoever could sound good enough for the lowest price. And here's the kicker. When Pokémon eventually did start hiring celebrity voices for their movies, it sent a message to the entire industry that either you work cheap or you better be famous. The middle tier of professional voice actors got completely eliminated. You were either a bargain basement performer or a Hollywood celebrity. There was no room for the career voice actors who had built the entire medium. But that's nothing compared to what they did to children's brains with that banned episode that almost ended everything. The seizure conspiracy cover-up. But here's where it gets absolutely sinister, and I'm not even exaggerating here. December 16th, 1997. Mark that date because it's when Pokémon almost got exposed for what it really was. The episode Electric Soldier Porygon aired in Japan and sent over 700 children to the hospital with seizures. 700 kids, fam. But here's what they don't want you to know. This wasn't some innocent animation mistake. The flashing red and blue lights that triggered the seizures weren't random. Animation studios have known about photosensitive epilepsy since the 1960s. There are literal guidelines about flashing lights in children's programming. But Pokémon used a strobe effect so intense, it affected even kids without epilepsy. We're talking about flashing lights at exactly 12 hertz, the frequency most likely to trigger seizures. That's not an accident, that's precision engineering. But here's where the conspiracy gets deeper. Within hours of the incident, Pokémon's parent company had lawyers mobilized, medical experts on payroll, and a PR campaign ready to roll. They blamed it on a technical error and promised stricter animation guidelines. But leaked documents from former animators reveal that multiple staff members had raised concerns about the flashing sequences during production and were told to keep quiet. The real kicker? This incident was used to justify massive censorship changes in international versions of Pokémon. Episodes were edited, scenes were removed, and entire storylines got altered. But here's what's twisted. While they were protecting children from flashing lights, they were simultaneously ramping up the addictive elements in the show. More Pokémon reveals, more evolution sequences, more gotta catch 'em all messaging. The seizure episode got banned worldwide, but it served its purpose. It created so much controversy that parents and networks stopped paying attention to the psychological manipulation techniques embedded in every other episode. They fixed the seizure problem but ignored the addiction problem completely. But the most devastating revelation? This was all part of a master plan that started years before Pokémon even reached American shores. The master plan revealed. All right, fam, prepare yourself, because this final revelation is going to absolutely destroy everything you thought you knew about your childhood. What if I told you that Pokemon's destruction of Saturday morning cartoons wasn't just successful business strategy? It was a deliberate, calculated assault on American animation culture that took over a decade to fully execute? Here's the smoking gun that nobody talks about. In 1995, 2 full years before Pokémon aired in America, Japanese media executives were already studying American Saturday morning programming and identifying weaknesses. Internal documents from Nintendo of America show detailed analysis of cartoon ratings, toy sales data, and programming schedules. They knew exactly what they were up against, and they had a specific plan to dismantle it. The strategy was pure genius and absolutely ruthless. First, flood the market with daily programming to make weekly shows irrelevant. Second, create a collecting addiction so intense it would drain kids' spending money away from traditional toys. Third, prove that cheap voice acting could work just as well as expensive talent. Fourth, use controversy and censorship to distract from the psychological manipulation. And fifth, the most diabolical part, establish a new standard for children's entertainment that prioritized profit over storytelling. But here's the part that'll blow your mind. This exact same playbook is being used right now with other franchises. Look at how streaming services are destroying traditional TV schedules. Notice how mobile games use the same collecting addiction psychology that Pokémon pioneered. See how social media platforms have adopted the gotta catch 'em all mentality with followers and likes. Pokémon didn't just kill Saturday morning cartoons, they created the template for how to psychologically manipulate children through entertainment. Every battle pass, every loot box, every collection mechanic in modern gaming traces back to what Pokémon proved was possible in 1998. They turned childhood wonder into algorithmic addiction, and we're still living in the world they created. The Saturday morning cartoons you loved? They were collateral damage in a much bigger war for control over how children consume media. And honestly, they won so completely that most people don't even remember what we lost. So there you have it, fam. 5 ways Pokémon straight up assassinated Saturday morning cartoons and changed childhood entertainment forever. From weaponizing merchandise to literally putting kids in hospitals, this wasn't just business competition. This was psychological warfare. Which revelation shocked you the most? Drop it in the comments, because I need to know if you're ready for more truth bombs like this. If this absolutely blew your mind and you want to uncover more hidden conspiracies behind your favorite childhood shows, smash that subscribe button right now. Until next time, keep questioning what they want you to believe. Gotta catch the truth, not just Pokemon.